Engineering isn't just about what we build, it's about the people who make it possible. This is the AECOM Early Careers podcast series, created in partnership with Engineer a Career. Here, we go beyond job titles and projects to uncover the real stories of the people shaping our world. You'll hear from apprentices, graduates, and early career professionals who are building their future at AECOM, sharing how they got here, what drives them, the lessons they've learned along the way. From tackling the challenges of clean energy and sustainability to finding purpose through design, infrastructure, and innovation, these are stories of growth, ambition, and impact. Whether you're job hunting, exploring your next step, or just curious about life after university, this is your inside look into what it means to build a career that truly makes a difference. The ACOM Early Careers podcast series, powered by Engineer a Career. Welcome to the Engineer a Career podcast with ACOM. In this episode, we'll explore Make an Impact That Lasts. I'm the founder of Engineer a Career and your podcast host, Josh Robertson. And I'm joined by Kat Thornton and Lauren Park. Working alongside ACOM enables Engineer a Career to demonstrate that we're connected with industry and the opportunities available to developing engineers and young professionals in each of the sectors which ACOM lead in. So join me as we explore the careers of Kat and Lauren. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Engineer a Career podcast with ACOM.
Thank you.
It's great to have you both here.
Thanks for having
Good
us.
to be here.
Let's kick off the episode with a quick quiz. And we're going to start off with yourself, Lauren.
Okay.
If you weren't in this career, what would you be doing?
So mine's is quite a funny one. So I really like airplanes. So when I'm at the airport, I love watching airplanes. I've gone to flight radar and track planes when I see them in the sky. So I think if I was to have a different career, I'd be like an airplane marshal. Like, you know, the guys are like on the foreground and they're like doing that with their the little paddles. That would be me. That would make my day.
Awesome. And what's one thing that you can't start your day without?
Snoozing my alarm. I always set my alarm like 10 minutes earlier than I need to get up because I've got to snooze it at least once. Can't start my day without it.
And what's one thing on your bucket list?
I would love to see the Northern Lights. So I've heard a lot of people have seen them here in Scotland, but I've never seen them, so I would love to see them.
And who's the best musician you've seen?
I don't know if ABBA Voyage counts because they're not technically live, but I absolutely loved ABBA Voyage when I was there. But if I had to choose an actual live one, I would go for Queen and Adam Lambert. Saw them live. That was amazing.
That's awesome. Over to you, Kat. If you weren't in this career, what would you be doing?
Probably something creative. I used to dance, so if I was good enough at that, something to do with dancing. Yeah.
And what's one thing you can't start your day without?
An Arabic coffee with cardamom in it. It's so good.
And one thing on your bucket list?
To skydive.
And the best musician you've seen live?
It's a band called Dry the River. No one's ever heard of them. I saw them at Leeds Fest. They were amazing. And then again in York, where I'm from. And then unfortunately they broke up as a band. So I'll treasure that memory forever.
Superb. So let's dive straight into the podcast then. And we'll explore your careers, your work at ACOM, and what keeps you passionate within both of your fields. So we've got engineering and we've got social impact. So let's start off with yourself, Lauren. What did you study and where?
So I studied civil and environmental engineering at the University of Strathclyde here in Glasgow. But on my third year, I also took an exchange year. So I went to Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. So that was something that was very different like work ethic over there. It's crazy, but I absolutely loved Singapore.
Amazing. And over to you, Kat, what did you study and at what university and where?
So I did an undergraduate degree in politics at the University of Glasgow. And then I did a master's in human rights and international politics, also at the University of Glasgow. Couldn't leave.
So what sparked your interest in engineering then, Lauren?
So I think all the way throughout school, I've always loved science, particularly physics and maths. And then I think in fifth year at school, one of my teachers put me forward for a Nuffield research placement. So it was a 6-week placement during the summer holidays at school where you get placed with either a company or a university in the kind of STEM sector. So I was placed at Glasgow University in the civil engineering department. And I was doing bioprospecting for wastewater treatment. So it was very heavily biology based, which I'd never done before. So it was just like really interesting because I never knew that like civil engineering like had that side of it. So I think that kind of sparked my interest. Like there's so much to engineering, not just like civil engineers build bridges. There's like a lot more to it. So that kind of sparked the interest in civil engineering, and then also looking at other like kind of forms of engineering. There's just so many out there. So knew that that's what I wanted to do after that.
Amazing. And throughout school, was it engineering the whole time? Did the subjects that you study align with engineering?
Yeah, they kind of aligned. I think I kind of wanted to be an architect when I was younger as well, but I think it was maybe a bit too like artsy for me almost. Like I feel like I'm sort of creative, but I'm not like super, super creative. So I think kind of moving into engineering was kind of close to that, but that was like the more logical side of like the architecture, like how something actually built other than what it looks like.
Amazing. So over to you, Kat. Social impact. Why social impact?
Yeah, I don't think I ever really realized that that's something that you can work in or study. But when I was at school, I was really into like human rights and fundraising for charities. So I ran like a human rights group in secondary school. And then someone said to me, "Oh, you're really political. You should go and study politics." So I did. And I never was kind of specifically looking to work in consulting or social impact at all. But I am really interested in social issues. And I think that we all have a moral responsibility to try and make the world a better place. So after I finished my master's and I was looking at grad jobs, the description for social impact consultant seemed to kind of align with what it was that I wanted to do, and then ended up just kind of falling into it by accident.
You joined ACOM and you're a social impact consultant. Talk me through your role at ACOM then.
Yeah. So we do kind of 3 key areas of work within my team. There's social impact, social research, and social value. So social impact is looking at how projects, proposals, it could be like a physical infrastructure project, it could be like a council's local plan. How does that impact vulnerable groups, and how can we kind of mitigate negative impacts, enhance positive ones? Social research would be doing primary research for a client, so it could be on accessibility of public transport or social impacts of renewable energy infrastructure. And then finally, social value would be either for AECOM projects or for our clients' projects, understanding the local area that they're based in and coming up with plans to leave a positive social impact through the work that's being done. It might be through outreach activities or investing in communities or ensuring a certain amount of the local supply, so a certain amount of the supply chain is spent locally.
Over to you, Lauren. So you studied civil engineering, but you are a graduate water engineer.
Yes.
Talk me through your role.
So I think going into the water engineering, I think it kind of stems back to that Nuffield project, to be honest. Like that initially sparked my interest in water engineering, and then the whole way throughout uni, hydraulics and water was always like my favourite classes. So I think that kind of naturally led me into being a water engineer. So right now I work as part of Caledonia Water Alliance, which is a joint venture between ACOM and Group Water. So we work on all water projects based in Scotland, and specifically I'm in the wastewater flooding team at the moment.
Can you share a memorable project or experience that you've worked on that you're really proud of?
Yeah, so mine is more of a personal one. So a couple of years back, I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. So I did this for a charity called Dig Deep Africa, who are also kind of water industry based. So again, it was like my interest in the water industry plus like kind of bucket list experience climbing Kilimanjaro. It just seemed too good of an opportunity to pass up. So yeah, we climbed Kilimanjaro. I say we, it was me and a team of, I think there was 19 of us, climbed Kilimanjaro a couple of years ago to raise money for Dig Deep, who work in rural Kenya to help bring clean water and sanitation to the area, or help improve clean water and sanitation in the area. So between us, we raised just shy of £70,000, which was pretty good. So yeah, I'm very proud of myself and all my team members that we could do that, and Kilimanjaro was amazing as well. So
over to you, Kat. Can you beat that?
Probably not, no.
Any projects that you've worked on, either personally or within your role, that stand out that you're proud of?
Yeah, I think one that springs to mind was the first one that I was kind of involved in from the very start to the very end. So we were doing some social research on the accessibility of public transport for people with disabilities. So I was involved in recruiting participants to take part in the study and then making journeys with them. So interviewing them, observing their experiences, and then writing up the chapter on the kind of key accessibility barriers and recommendations to improve accessibility of public transport. It was really interesting because I was involved from start to finish, that I kind of got a full view of the project, but also a lot of the impact assessments that I do relate to public transport. So all of those things that I kind of witnessed in that research, I've been able to carry forward into the work that I do. And when I'm assessing, proposals at a train station or a local council transport strategy, a new active travel route, I can really think about those accessibility issues and use it in my other projects as well. So that one's definitely kind of stuck with me because it's been really useful in my other work.
And that ties us nicely into work that matters then. So from a personal point of view, what does work that matters mean to you within your role and within how you complete your role within ACOM?
Yeah. When I was a teenager, I read The Life That You Can Save by Peter Singer. And then I really got into Rutger Bregman's work and interested in the effective altruism movement. And within that movement, they talk about this 80,000 hours concept. So basically what that means is unless you're super wealthy or you go into a job that pays you a significant amount of money and you can then offload that money to charities, the biggest way that you're going to make an impact is through the work that you do, because on average you work 80,000 hours. So for me, it was really important to find a job that I felt did work that mattered, because that's the biggest way that I personally will be able to leave a positive impact. So yeah, want to do work that matters, but I also want to make sure that the job that I do, I'm good at, so that me in that position is having the best impact possible.
And work that matters, what about yourself, Lauren? What does it mean to you within your role?
Yeah, I think very similar. I think it's like making sure that I'm actually doing something that has a positive impact on people's lives, rather than just like a checkbox exercise. Like I'd like to know that my work is actually helping people in some way and making an impact on their daily lives.
So Lauren, can you share a project which you've saw real social, environmental and community impact?
So I worked on a project in Edinburgh that was in the Marchman area, and the scope of this project was a 20-metre diameter storage tank that's buried in the meadows in Edinburgh. The driver behind this was to prevent sewer flooding in the area. So that's like kind of your social impact right there, was the whole driver behind the project. So those properties are now protected from sewer flooding. But it was such a large project that there was so much like involvement in the community before, during and after. So before it even started on site, there was a lot of community involvement. There was a lot of days held with there was a community group that had a lot of input into the project, and then that kind of led into some of the design work that was done. And then during the project, there was school groups that got invited out to site, so a lot of like little kids and scout groups got to come out. They got to look into the tank, shout into the tank and hear their voices echoing. They got to try on lots of PPE, so it was really good to have like lots of kids out and seeing what's going on behind these like site walls, because they can't see, they don't know what's going on. But yeah, I think that's really important that they could see as well. And then afterwards, after the site had finished, the timber hoarding, which is like the wooden fencing and panels around the site, that was all dismantled and taken to local schools, which have then used it for, I think they've used it for benches, they've now recycled it into like planters. So there's a lot of like benefit that the schools have out of this, plus the carbon saving, because there was no waste for this. And then all these schools can then use these planters and benches going forward for many years to come.
And what was your particular role within that? Did you get involved in arranging the school trips, or were you just involved with the actual activities themselves?
So I was just the design. So this project started, it's been many years in the making, this one. This started before I joined ACOM, and then I got involved in the kind of later stages of it once it was on site. So yeah, I didn't have too much impact on like the start of the project, but towards the end I could join in. Over to you, Kat.
You obviously, your role was in particularly covering social impact. So is there a specific project where you've saw real social, environmental and community impact that stands out?
Yeah, I worked on a gender safety assessment for a city centre. So they were pedestrianising and they wanted to understand how women and gender minorities might be impacted by that, because often the kind of safety implications are overlooked. So once we worked on that for that specific project, I realised that I'd done loads of research already into these like feminist town planning principles, thinking about how women use the city, because for for centuries, cities have been designed by men for men, and women and other people haven't always been considered. So I worked with a colleague, Fiona Bebbington, who's an engineer in the streets team in AECOM's Glasgow office. And we took all the kind of findings, we did some extra engagement, and then we designed a personal safety tool. So it's not just about women. We looked at the needs of people with disabilities, people kind of using pushchairs, people who are sensory impaired. And now we are rolling this out across ACOM, hopefully in the near future, to use on various different urban projects to assess how the proposals are going to impact more vulnerable people, both their perceptions of safety and actual safety as well. So we trialed it actually on a project last year once we made it, and it was an active travel route. There was questions over whether lighting would be used, and the personal safety assessment that we did highlighted how important lighting is for women when they're walking home at night. And maybe not entirely as a result of that, but as a result of other factors that kind of contributed to lighting being included as part of that route. And it was really kind of positive for Fiona and I to see that something that we had designed had contributed towards making a kind of positive social impact for women.
That sounds awesome, and also incredibly rewarding as well.
Yeah, I'm excited to hopefully use it on lots more projects in the next few years.
So let's move on to the more technical side of the workplace. How do you balance technical excellence with delivering positive social outcomes? So start off with yourself, Lauren.
So I think they actually go hand in hand. So quite often I think there's like an easy answer to a project, but that easy answer might not always be the best answer or the best solution. So for example, I'm working on a project just now. It's a sea outfall pipe, and the easy answer to that would be build it overground. It's so much easier to build it overground, and that's what would normally be done. But the area that we're building in, it's a conservation area, and there's been a lot of talks with the local area, the local council, Nature Scotland. Lots of different parties are being involved, and the consensus is that this pipe should be buried. So although that is technically a lot harder to do, it's the best outcome for everyone involved. But I think that actually makes you better technically, because the solution that we're looking at just now has not been done before. So it's given a lot of research has gone into it, and we're actually coming up with a better solution than what we would have done if it was going to be overground.
And how do you balance that technical side as well as the social side?
I think it's really dependent, project to project. All the different factors kind of come into it, and it's really you really have to weigh up with all the different stakeholders what's the best solution. Because for a designer, the best solution quite often is the easiest to build. But for an external stakeholder, it might be they don't want to see the pipe out their front door, so they want it to be buried. So you just have to weigh up the kind of pros and cons of each, and then come to a kind of unanimous decision between it all.
What about yourself, Kat, in terms of balancing the technical but also delivering the positive social outcomes? How do you see the approach to ensuring there's a balance between the two?
So obviously, for me personally, I believe that social outcomes are inherently a part of technical excellence. That is a very important part of it. So completely agree with everything that you were saying. For us, there's a really clear difference when project teams consider these issues at the very beginning. So if our team are kind of consulted at the start of a project, which stakeholders should we contact? How do we get them involved? You do kind of an impact assessment at the early options at the start. So you've already kind of considered how people will be impacted. It's so much easier than a project that kind of runs start to finish, and at the end, it's kind of an afterthought of, we should do an impact assessment on how people will be impacted, because at that point, recommendations and such, there's not really much space to implement them. So I think the way to kind of balance them is you consider social at the very beginning. You use our team, obviously, and we come in and provide kind of advice on who you should contact and make recommendations from the very start of the project, so that can be embedded in the project design from the beginning, and lead to a balance of technical excellence and positive social outcomes.
And with regards to these projects which balance the two, which any project should, how important do you think the emphasis on the balance is when you're trying to attract young professionals into industry?
I think it's really important. I think that most people want to do a job that they feel like they're making a positive difference. I particularly think our generation growing up with climate change being such a massive issue and being told about it in school, and don't know, maybe almost a little bit feeling like the end of the world is coming. It's a difficult political climate at the minute, and it can feel quite negative and quite overwhelming. To be able to go to work and feel like you're doing something that's going to have a positive impact is really important. And I think that does matter to a lot of people, and that's the type of job that they would want to go into.
Exactly.
I think on top of that, exposure to the projects that's going on, I think is really important, because if younger people don't have any exposure, they don't know what's going on, then they're maybe not going to be interested and not really care. But if they do kind of see what's going on, try and get them involved in some way or another, then they'll want to piggyback on top of that and maybe want to do that in their future career as well.
Yeah, I think when you're dealing with developing engineers or developing professionals, having exposure or the awareness of projects and the different facets of them is almost fundamental to then attracting the professionals into in particular parts of the industry or sectors. Without that awareness, then it's quite difficult to see where you're going to go, essentially.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to social impact, it's even more important, because I think nowadays young professionals want to be involved where they can make a difference. And you must see that within your role in particular, Kat. So in terms of mentors and role models, going back into both of your own careers, has there been any mentors or role models that have been fundamental to your career so far, Kat?
Yes, I was really lucky coming into a really small and supportive team with like a variety of different skill sets. So my colleague Lucy in the team had been there for a few years before me and has so much impact assessment experience. And then Eva, who's my line manager, is more on the social research side. And both of them have been such good mentors and given me so much useful information. No question ever feels too silly. And I've picked up most of what I do in my job now from the pair of them. And yeah, they're just really great to work with, which makes your job so much more enjoyable when you actually like the people that you work with. It's quite a big factor.
It's so important to talk about people who influence you and our role models, because it gives developing professionals the confidence that there's essentially people out there in the industry that can support your career. And I'm sure you've felt that since coming to AECOM and starting your career off.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think that there's a really good culture of just speaking to people for the sake of it. I would say like across teams in the Glasgow office, it's encouraged to go and have a conversation with someone from a different team, even if you don't think that you kind of work on the same things, or there'll be a lot more space for collaboration than you realize. And that happened with Fiona and I developing our personal safety tool. She's a streets engineer, I do social impact, but just through kind of casual conversations and then a little bit of project overlap, we developed a relationship where now we're building something together that maybe we wouldn't have done if we hadn't had those conversations.
So mentors and role models are fundamental. What do you think, Lauren, in terms of your career so far? Who's been instrumental in guiding you?
I think coming into the industry, like coming into the career, I was kind of self-guided. All my family do like business jobs, so I think I'm the kind of outlier. I'm the only engineer, so I think getting into like the industry, it was kind of self-guided. But then once I've been in, pretty similar to Kat, I've been in an amazing team I get on with so well. They've spent so much time like working through things with me over the past 2 years, and have kind of like helped shape me into like the kind of engineer that I am now. Like I feel like I'm pretty knowledgeable at what I do now, and it's probably because of the people that I've worked with. They've really helped guide that.
So what's one part of engineering which excites you at the moment? It doesn't have to be in work that you're doing, it can be across the whole of industry. What excites you about engineering?
I think it's ever changing, like it's always evolving. It's a job you're always going to need it. Like I know people are talking about like AI and stuff just now, but I don't think you could ever get like AI to do what we do. So I think the fact that you're always going to need an engineer, and I do just genuinely like what I'm doing every day. So that makes going to work worthwhile.
And what about yourself, Kat, from a social impact point of view? What excites you within either ACOM or more globally from a social impact point of view that keeps the fire burning?
I think it's been really exciting to be involved in a lot of projects that relate to net zero. That's such a big thing, and I definitely have had a lot of climate anxiety personally over the last few years and worrying about the state of the world. And then to be involved in those types of projects and to see how quickly things are kind of mobilizing in this country and that we are trying to take those steps, that's made me feel a lot more hopeful. And just within my practice, my team sit within carbon and ESG. There's lots of people there that are really passionate about that and are thinking about those things. And so to see people kind of proactively working on these issues, it makes you feel a lot more positive. But also just general things that maybe at one time you would have had to have pushed for when it comes to accessibility. I would say like climate change and transport are the key areas that I've kind of worked in. Things that maybe before might have been a recommendation are being considered at the very beginning. So just little design features that make infrastructure more accessible are being incorporated, and people have a much better understanding of that already without somebody having to kind of tell them like you should consider this.
So Lauren, do you have any aspirations and professional goals for the future?
I think a big one for me is to become chartered. So I've started to work towards it. I think it's just like a kind of recognition that you know your stuff. You're good at what you do. So I would like to get chartered in the future.
And over to you, Kat. Do you have any professional goals or aspirations for the future?
I think the most important thing for me is that I feel like I am doing something that matters and that I'm doing it well. I've been enjoying recently doing slightly more project management side of things, and that's something that's really exciting. But also just expanding my technical knowledge and maybe being able to bring new skills to the team. Ultimately, you do the work that your team has the qualifications to do, so you can win that work and you can do it. So expanding your general knowledge and your kind of technical expertise means that you can win work that you are more interested in. So I'm excited to kind of pull in a variety of different projects and be able to work on things that are new. But most importantly, just want to feel really happy and like I'm doing something good.
Yeah, good, very good. That's awesome. So what advice would you give to someone that's looking to kickstart their career, interested to go into a role linked to or within social impact?
I would say try everything. You don't know what you're going to like. So let yourself be pulled in lots of different directions. See if it is something that is for you. And also tell people what you're interested in. I would say certainly within AECOM, but I would imagine elsewhere as well. Like your managers want to support you to do the things that you want to do. So if you're interested in something, even if it's not kind of directly related to the work that you do, but it's a side hobby that you do, tell people about it, because then when opportunities come up that might link with that, they will put that in front of you so that you can try something new. Ask lots of questions, and also don't be afraid to challenge authority if you don't agree with something, particularly in social impact. If you're producing work for clients, it's okay to question, actually, I'm not sure that this is a positive social impact. Actually, I think that this might need a little bit more work. Trust your gut and ask, because the worst thing is that they're going to say that you're wrong, but at least ask the question and don't just kind of go along with what everyone's telling you.
Yeah, I think ask the question. It's simple but very powerful bit of advice. You can never ask enough questions, and there's no such thing as a silly question either. Over to you, Lauren. So what advice would you give to an aspiring engineer looking to kickstart their career within industry, within our industry?
Yeah, I think probably pretty similar. Just ask lots of questions. I think that's really helped me. Because I think uni's great. It gives you the good foundation, the good starting point. But it's like when you actually start a job that you properly learn what you're doing. Just ask so many questions, and again, don't be afraid to challenge things that you think maybe aren't quite right. Because I've done that before. I've been like scared to say like, oh, I don't think that's right. But then I've like actually spoke up, and they've been like, oh yeah, good spot, and I'm like, okay, that makes me feel better now. So yeah, definitely ask lots of questions. Don't be afraid to challenge things that you think are maybe not quite right.
Well, thanks both for joining me on the podcast. It's been awesome hearing your perspectives of your two areas of your profession, from engineering to social impact. I really hope that this goes out and helps someone who has their career in front of them be inspired and can see where they want to go. So as we end every podcast for engineer career, I'm going to ask you what keeps you passionate about engineering and social impact. So start with yourself, Kat. What keeps you passionate about social impact?
Trying different projects, learning new skills on different projects, feeling like you're contributing towards solutions, and that in a world that feels quite scary at the minute, being able to see small tangible things that you're doing that are actually making things a little bit better.
And over to you, Lauren. What keeps you passionate about engineering?
My answer was basically the exact same. Yeah, just kind of basically exactly what Kat said for me as well. I think seeing things that I'm doing, no matter how small they are genuinely making an impact on someone's life. So I think that's a good thing.
Well, thanks both for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.